a self-sufficient middle-class family. The father has a good job that allows him to provide for his unemployed housewife and 2 sisters, one of whom, 17-year-old Sarah, who is the protagonist of the story, decides to leave her family and go to a party with friends. The father, who is far from liking the fact that he was not informed, forbids his daughter to go anywhere, despite the fact that the mother was aware of it and absolutely not against it. Sarah, who considers her father excessively strict, I would even say dictator, does not intend to indulge him and runs away from home through the window of her room. At the party, the girl has a wonderful time with her beloved boyfriend named Chris. He plays her guitar, they kiss and spend the night together, while Sarah's father can't put up with his underage daughter's disobedience. After Sarah returns near morning, her father tells her that as long as she lives in his house, she will do as he tells her. After a while, the father overhears a conversation between the daughters and the mother in which Sarah talks about her dream that when she turns 18 she will go to Florida and finally not have to ask anyone's permission. The girl dreams of traveling around the states and seeing the world. 3 months later, the father asks his daughter to help her move a box of things. Sarah had no idea that there was a bomb shelter in the basement of their house and that her dad Don turned on his head and is going to close her there. Sarah becomes hysterical and starts screaming and asks her dad to open the door and discovers her belongings in the box. On 3 unsuccessful attempts to enter the code for the door, the lights and ventilation in the basement go out. Meanwhile, Sarah's mother, her sister, decides to call the police despite the calmness of her father, who says that his daughter will probably come back again. Under the morning, on the second day, Sarah runs out to the first door and tries to scream again. However, her father assures her that she can scream as much as she wants. The room is completely soundproofed. When the daughter asks him why he is doing this, he replies that life is a series of interactions. For every action there is a counteraction. She has been disobedient and there are consequences. If she needs something, be it a book or a blanket, it will be up to him to give it to her, and all these privileges she must now earn. The mother tells the policeman that Sarah could not have run away, and something bad has obviously happened to her. At that moment, the father Don tells the policeman that the daughter has already been disobedient and has run away from home. She has also lost her belongings and her traveling bag. According to the policeman, Sarah is already wanted, but most likely she decided to be alone and left her parents, and in any case the girl has already turned 18 and now she can do whatever she wants. Sarah realizes that she has been locked up by her father in her own house. The girl constantly remembers her boyfriend, how he told her that one day they will leave together. Meanwhile, Chris arrives at Sarah's house and starts a conversation with her father. The guy says that he was questioned by the cops and he doesn't know anything. He decides to find out if there is any news on what kind. Daddy Don tells Chris that she had a boyfriend named Steve and that Sarah told him that they are going to run away with him. Chris doesn't believe him to the end, but nevertheless, after hearing such a story from his father, he leaves in a hurry. The father brings the basement cake in honor of the past birthday and asks his daughter to blow out the candle. Sarah refuses, unable to believe the absurdity of what is happening, to which the father tells her that he may not be kind. He gives her a red dress, asks her to wear it, and makes her choose something which is what she needs most. Sarah pleads for him to let her out, but in response she hears that it's a little early. After a while, Sarah resigns herself to the situation and asks for a watch or tally, saying that the timekeeping here is strange. Her father tells her not to call him Dad, addressing him by his first name Don, after which the abuse story continues. Sarah decides to attack her father using a tin can lid, resulting in the girl once again becoming a victim of abuse. A year later, Sarah gives birth to a girl by her own father and names her Marie. Daddy Don keeps saying clever phrases like that motherhood is the best thing that can be. A woman supposedly develops some sort of purpose. Among the things in groceries, Sarah sees a knife. However, she does not do anything anymore. The girl thinks that this will only lead to the fact that her conditions with her child can only worsen. Meanwhile, Sarah's mother still can't believe that her daughter just ran away and continues to grieve. Later, we see Sarah already pregnant with her second. The girl tells Don that there will soon be 3 of them, and it's not too late to give them their freedom, to which the father says that he just wants to come here to relax without too much tedious talk and moralizing. At dinner, the mother informs her husband that they need to hire a private investigator, but he doesn't like that since Sarah's mother has already traveled to Florida to look for a daughter, and no more of that, as they say. He asks her not to whine and says they have a second daughter just in case. For Christmas, Don brings Sarah a TV. The girl Marie doesn't understand what it is, and Sarah tells her daughter that it's their window to the world where Daddy Don goes all the time. 7 years later, Sarah's son Michael has already grown up. Marie is very ill and yes, brings medicine, however not at all what is needed. Sarah tells Tom that her daughter needs a doctor. She has a fever of 38. The caring father assures her that Sarah and her sister were always sick when they were kids, and her mother somehow managed, so she can manage. Next, we see Sarah telling her daughter a fairy tale about Prince Christopher, who was in love with the princess, projecting her whole situation into the fairy tale. Later, Chris arrives at Sarah's house in an attempt to find out something and meets Sarah's sister Amy. He tells her about the conversation with his father, and it turns out that there is no Steve, and his father made the whole thing up. Amy tells Chris that she has a suspicion that her father is involved in her sister's disappearance. Sarah is already pregnant with her third. In the locked basement, the mother tries to play with the children somehow. These few square meters seem like a big world to the children, because apart from this basement, they have never seen anything. These kids have no idea how big the world really is outside these walls. The wife throws a tantrum at Don and can't understand why he lied to Chris about Steve. In the end, the mother decides to hire a private investigator, and in the course of the quarrel she notices the keys falling out of her father's pocket and goes to the basement where he spends a great deal of time. Unfortunately, she cannot find any traces. Her father catches Amy almost immediately and tells her to get the hell out of the basement. Sarah gives birth to a baby boy and names him Thomas. The girl asks Don to take the baby upstairs, reasoning that it's cramped down here in the basement. 3 and the 4 of them will be more than enough. She writes a note to her mother, in which she says that she is dating a guy, but they're having problems now. There are neither finances nor time for the baby, but in general she is doing fine. Under the baby, Sarah puts a secret note that said she was locked in the basement. Unfortunately, her mother is not found, but is noticed by the attentive house, and as a result, Sarah is punished. After 14 years, the father has already set his eyes on Maria's teenage daughter. Sarah begs him not to touch her and to leave the girl alone. After which Don buries the infant in the lot of their house. At some point, the kids start asking to get out of the basement, to which their beloved dad replies that it will happen as soon as their mom teaches them how to behave properly. As a result, the kids throw themselves at Sarah, saying that it's all her fault they're in here, and their mom won't even let them talk to Don. Sarah tries to explain to them that she wants to protect them, that Don keeps them all here like animals. And the fairy tale she told them when they were kids, about Prince Christopher and the princess who had her father clip his wings, is a story about her, after which she confesses everything to the kids. Time passes and Daddy Don starts bringing less and less food, which Sarah is extremely unhappy about. She explains to Don that they have to share portions. The father begins to be rude to Sarah. In response, son Michael throws himself at Don. This leads to Don just leaving, and once again the lights and ventilation are turned off. After a while, the head of the Dual family is fired from his job. He receives a foreclosure notice. He decides to get rid of his second family living in the basement with the help of car exhaust. But the plan is thwarted when the very same Thomas approaches his father. He tells him that Grandpa will definitely cope with all the problems and everything will be fine with them. After that, Don gives up his scheme and leaves Sarah and the 2 children alive. Next, we see a real family idyll. Upstairs, the exemplary family dad is barbecuing with his family, while in the basement Mary is suffering from illness. Later, Don comes down to the basement, and Sarah implores her father to take the girl to the hospital. Otherwise, she will simply die for unknown reasons. Trusting Sarah, Don agrees, and once in the hospital, the girl takes advantage of the situation. She informs security to one of the doctors that she needs help. As a result, Don is arrested. Sarah's mother is hysterical and can hardly believe what is happening. 20 years later, the children and Sarah herself find themselves free. In the last scenes of the film, we are shown how the girl, along with the children, lives in a country house and meets Chris. Having once again watched a film based on real events, I can say with certainty that the picture will touch the hearts of many viewers. However, it is not clear to me why the authors so distorted the story, removing and recycling not just circumstantial facts, but also key moments. And the play of the actor, who played the role of the father, was in some places so overplayed that I wanted to stop watching, because it looked like an action film of Indian cinema, where, as a rule, the main character is so cool that he breaks the laws of physics and everything that is possible. Anyone who knows a little about cinema will tell you that as long as we believe, we watch. As soon as we stop believing, the film is over. It is at such moments that we feel the falseness. Interest in the film is lost at this stage. That's exactly what I experienced more than once when watching this film, and I have a lot to compare it to. Much more deeply, I was immersed in the plot of what was happening. The same films made on real events. The film of the 15th year, Room 3096, 6 Days of Sherry Foreman, even Colony Dignidad. I can justify the vanity of the narrative of this film by the excessive conformism of the authors. But to understand the tragedy, I will add, in the real story, the girl's name was Elizabeth Friedzel, who spent 24 years in the basement of her own house, giving birth to children one after another for her sick father. The girl's father, Joseph Fritzl, later confessed in court that he had always dreamed of having a second family. During the 24 years, his own daughter bore him 7 children. One of them, a baby, who would later be named Michael, was cremated by his father in incinerators on the property of his own home, as the child was injured at birth and could not simply survive. Joseph carried the other children out of the basement as infants, telling his wife that their prodigal daughter was secretly giving them grandchildren. The father made Elizabeth write a letter in which the girl reports that she had gone and joined a cult. Since the letter was written in Elizabeth's hand, there were no questions from the police. What is amazing about this story is that there is room for a mother's love and endurance. Despite her inhuman ordeal, Elizabeth did her best to make sure that the lives of her 3 children, who lived with her in the basement, were, if not miserable, at least not devoid of simple joys. Drawings of sea creatures, flowers, and sunbeams still adorn bathroom walls to this day. Images of the very things the children had never seen before their release in 2008. Elizabeth made up stories about princesses and pirates to entertain the kids. And even though she had no books, she did her best to teach the children to read. Coming out exactly as it was shown in the film, the girl was 43